Okay. Good to go. Council, we'll call the meeting to order. Thank you very much for your attendance tonight, October 25th. We thank those in the gallery and those that are watching us electronically. We'll call the meeting to order. Members of the public are invited to participate in this meeting electronically, or they can meet in person at our municipal office at 153 McKellar Street. Of course, the participation is always arranged through our clerk. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. I'm pleased that Councillor Choi, I noticed your two items here, 4B, the Committee of Adjustment, and the Longwoods Road on the regular agenda. I noticed your declaration there. Thank you very much. Are there any other members of council that declare a pecuniary interest? Okay, we'll move on. Additions to the agenda. And perhaps just before we do that, council, let's give a brief land acknowledgement. We begin this gathering by acknowledging that the land upon which we meet is the traditional territory of First Nations people who have a long-standing relationship with the land, water, and region of Southwest Middlesex. We convey our respect to our Indigenous neighbors and thank them for their contributions to our culture, our community, our past, and partnerships that we'll entertain in the future. Additions to the agenda, council, are there any? I have not been notified of any. The chair will entertain a motion that the agenda be accepted as presented. Is there a mover? Councillor McCollum, seconded by Councillor Choi. Discussion? All in favor? Carried. The consent agenda is rather brief. That has been circulated. Just the confirmation bylaw of the last meeting. Would someone entertain a motion that the consent agenda be accepted? The minutes of the meeting of October 11th, 2023 be accepted. Is there a mover and a seconder? Councillor McGill, thank you, Mark. Councillor McCollum, all in favor? Carried. Council, it is necessary that we convene in the Committee of Adjustment. We have a planning matter at hand. May I have a motion that we enter the Committee of Adjustment at 6:02? Is there a mover for that, please? Councillor Choi, seconder. Councillor Vink, all in favor? Carried. And Alan, if you can get Stephanie on here, it'd be great. Hi, Stephanie, how are you doing?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
Good, good. It's good to see you virtually tonight. Stephanie, we'll call the meeting to order at 6:03, and I'll go through the preliminaries. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. Are there any? Okay, yes, Councillor Choi has been noted. Minutes of the last meeting have been circulated. The September 27th meeting. It's been circulated for council study. Is there a motion to accept them? Councillor McGill, seconder. Councillor McCollum, that the September 27th Committee of Adjustment minutes be approved by the committee. All in favor? Carried. Stephanie, you have three submissions before us tonight. The first 4A is the consent application on 204 Church Street. Could you advise council of the purpose and effect of this application?
Certainly, I'm just going to share my screen with you all. If someone could just confirm when you're able to see that, that would be greatly appreciated.
Yep. You're on air. I see you. Yep.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So the purpose and effect of the application for consent is to sever a residential parcel of land for the purpose of constructing a single detached dwelling. The subject lands are designated residential within the Southwest Middlesex official plan and are zoned the residential first density R1 zone within the Southwest Middlesex zoning bylaw. Residential intensification as well as a variety of housing forms, are encouraged within settlement areas and full municipal services. Staff have reviewed the proposal and are of the opinion that both the severed and the retained lands meet all applicable policies, and therefore recommend that the application be granted, subject to the conditions which council will have before them. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Council, as you know, there's a process we must go through. At this point, we'll ask if there's any remarks from the applicant. Are they present? Seeing none, Alan, have there been any oral or written submissions?
Your worship, not to my knowledge.
Okay. Committee discussion, council, any questions that you'd like to ask Stephanie through the chair? Seeing none, there is a recommendation before you that the application be granted to 204 Church Street, Wardsville. Any discussion on this, council? Yes, Martin, go ahead, please. Okay, thank you very much. I'll accept that. Is there a seconder for Martin's motion? Amy, thank you very much. Council, any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Stephanie, thank you very much for that. We can move on to 4B, or what do we got here? Yeah. Was that it? Yeah, because 4B, the Longwoods Road application will be next. If you could advise council of the purpose and effect of this application.
Certainly. And are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Perfect, thank you. So the purpose and effect of the application is to permit a surplus farm dwelling severance as a result of farm consolidation. The lands are subject to 2 previous consent applications, which both have lapsed, meaning that the conditions weren't able to be fulfilled within the required time frame of 1 year and 2-year time periods. Staff are of the opinion that the proposed lot is larger than necessary to accommodate the dwelling and the services, and therefore is not consistent with the provincial policy or in conformity with the county and Southwest Middlesex plans as proposed. Staff are of the opinion that increasing the severed lot area from what was conditionally granted through consent B9 2021 from 0.5 hectares or 1.25 acres to 1 hectare or 2.5 acres in order to dispose of lands that the applicant has deemed unsuitable for crop production will not be consistent with the policy direction for the lot to only be large as necessary to accommodate the dwelling and services. Staff are of the opinion that the applicant has not demonstrated a policy-based requirement for doubling the size of the proposed severed lot, and therefore will not be in a position to support the application as applied for. However, in order for staff to be in a position to support the application, it is recommended as part of the conditions that the consent, the severed lot be reduced in size, in that the rear lot line be relocated 3 meters from the water well, as well as the eastern lot line be relocated 3 meters from the water well, and the area be recalculated accordingly. And it's just noted that that would be consistent with council's previous decision in 2021. So staff recommend that the application be granted, subject to the conditions, including the lot size reduction. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Is the applicant present in this instance? Nope. I see Alan shaking his head, so we can move on. Alan, any oral or written submissions?
Not to the best of my knowledge, your worship.
Okay, thank you. Committee discussion, council, any questions? Yes, Councilor Vink, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. This is to Stephanie. As you well know, the applicant is a fairly large livestock owner. And I live on a farm and we have a severed lot beside us. There are rules that you have to be so many feet away from the well in order to spread manure. So I feel that the measurement should stay exactly the same as what's indicated originally. to protect the new owner.
Any further discussion from council? I see no hands. There's a recommendation for you that Stephanie has put out, subject to the 16 conditions. What's your wish, council? Do you accept the recommendation? Councillor Vink?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the 16 amendments, except for shortening the lot. So back
Okay.
to the original
Back to the
measurement.
original. Okay, that was what
I will move that.
planner has proposed. Is there a seconder for that? Yes.
Your worship, I am interjecting as the manager of legislative services, not as the clerk at this moment in time. I do have an alternate solution that may satisfy the councillor's motion, but that's been pre-vetted by county planning services.
Mhm.
May I circulate that before we get a second on that?
Yes, you can. And I'm concerned about that section of the land that's being asked. Is it actually farmable? Is what my concern was going to be. So would this be, okay. Would this be regarded as number 17 of the recommendations, or would it just, is it a totally different?
Number.
Okay, yeah, all right, okay. Okay, yes, Martin, please go ahead. Mhm. Mhm. That was my opinion as well. Councillor Vink, thank you. Alan, I want to thank you very much for that. It does shed some light on that. Council, do you require any explanation from Alan on this, or the planner, Stephanie? I know that Stephanie, no doubt, is in conversation with Alan on this as well. And I like to see that teamwork. Deputy Mayor Scholdice?
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. How does this coincide to Alan? How does this coincide to the diagram that we have?
I'd actually look to the planner for maybe some advice on that.
Yes. Sorry, certainly. I can share my screen again. I do have a marked up version of a sketch that would paint a better, like more, I guess, descriptive picture than the location map provided. So I'll share that with you. You should now be able to see on your screen in front of you a survey with some hand drawings over top of it. So
We do see that, Stephanie. Okay.
perfect, thank you. So part 2 is shown on your screen, and that's outlined kind of in this bold black outline. That was the 2021 severance or lot that was approved by council that had lapsed due to the timing. And the hatched area is what the applicant is proposing through this application. So you can see kind of visually that it would double kind of the original lot as applied for in 2021. So so staff recommendation is to kind of keep the original as seen in part 2 with a little bit tweaking of the rear and the eastern lot lines. However, staff did prepare an alternative motion should council decide to want to make a recommendation reflective of what the applicant applied for. So that's what Alan had provided for your consideration as well.
Thank you again, Steph. Council, is there an understanding of this, that staff have worked on this? Yes, Councilor McCollum.
Yes, I believe there's town water on that property. So the well wouldn't be used for the house.
Yes, Martin, go ahead. Yep, that's an interesting point, Councilor McCollum. Thank you.
Yes, the other two houses there, I have talked to the person that has the application. So I don't believe there is a water on this property, a water line. I mean, it's not very far away, but it doesn't actually go by. It's the other two houses are hooked up to a water line that's in that area, but this one isn't.
But we're not sure. And our staff have no knowledge of that, I don't believe. So.
No, I can
Yep.
confirm, your worship, that, the applicant did identify through their application form, private servicing, meaning the individual well, as well as the private septic system.
Okay, thank you. That's great. So, yes, Councilor Vink, again, follow up.
Well, I was going to make a motion there,
Yep,
whenever
sure.
you're
Yep,
ready.
go ahead. Yep.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the severance with the amended motion, the 2.5 acres. The barns are completely enclosed in it, so none of that 2.5 acres is workable.
Okay, sounds good. Is there a second for that? Okay, Deputy Mayor Scholdice has seconded it. I want to thank staff very much. And Stephanie, particularly you, I know you work with staff very well on this, and it pays dividends in the end, and we appreciate your flexibility on that. Any questions? Yes, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I will support the motion, but I would like to point out, sometimes we talk about what's workable land and what isn't. I've seen places not too far from me where they've taken down a whole bunch of old buildings and cleaned it all up, and they farm right through now. You'd never know there were ever any buildings there. There's one being done just down the road from our brothers right now. And I'll bet that when they're done, they'll be able to farm all that land. And also, previously, on this same location, I remember the original severance application we approved. I think that the lot was going to be quite small, and there was going to be an easement. So the well was actually going to be on the land that the farmer was keeping. Now this way, whether we go with what Stephanie recommended or this alternate version, both ways, at least the well is on the property of the person that's going to own the house, which to me, I think is a better way of doing things.
Yes.
But
yeah.
I will support the motion Councillor Vink has made.
Okay, thank you. Councilor McGill. Last call for questions. All in favor? All opposed? Motion's carried. Stephanie, we have one more to go. If you could advise us of the purpose and effect of 222 Main Street in Glencoe.
Certainly. The purpose of effect of the application is to recognize an existing residential unit that is located in the rear of the ground floor area of a commercial building, whereas the core commercial C1 zone limits the location of a dwelling unit to units above the ground floor of the building to which it is situated. Staff have reviewed the application against the 4 tests of a minor variance and are of the opinion that it is considered to be minor in nature. It is an appropriate use of the land, and it does meet the intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw. It is noted that subsequent to writing the planning report, staff did receive a written submission from a member of the public who did express concerns in regards to parking challenges for residents along Main Street. It is noted that this is an existing residence. The variance is just formally recognizing the ownership did change hands, and the new owner did some due diligence and wanted to really ensure that the unit can continue to be used for residential purposes. Additionally, it should be noted in regards to parking, the commercial core zoning, which is along the downtown core, is exempt from parking requirements within the zoning bylaw, which means that these residential units, which are permitted within the zoning category, do not have any required parking spaces associated with them within the zoning bylaw. So the on-street parking in the municipal lot are kind of the options if there's no room on site. This applicant did advise that there is room for 2 parking spaces, which generally would go for the commercial use, and the existing residents would use alternative forms if they do own a vehicle. So I just wanted to address kind of that public comment. And generally, that being said, it's recommended that the application be granted. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Is the applicant present? Yes, how are you? Good, very well. Thank you for submitting this application. Alan's going to make you comfortable. If you could come up and sit down, and if you could just state your name for the record, we would appreciate it. And feel comfortable. You're not on trial here, so don't.
The name is Jeff Knipfel.
Yeah.
I am the relatively new owner of that property. I'm here to answer any questions that you might have. Stephanie summed it up very well. So,
Okay. Thank you very much, and we appreciate your investment in Southwest Middlesex. Council, any questions that you wish to ask the applicant? Councillor Myers, go ahead.
Thank you. We're talking about parking. Stephanie said there's no parking in the back. It's right here, right?
limited parking. Yes, you can see it out your window.
So we do have parking over here.
Correct.
So I encourage anybody that buys any property on the main street to do the parking over here. And because we're having a problem with it right now, people parking on the main street.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I would agree.
For, for people that own businesses,
Yeah.
they want in and out, and they're having a hard time getting there. So that's all my concerns.
Yeah, I understand that concern, and I'm pretty sure I have a fair idea of who may have put in the word otherwise. There has been concern by a lot of the commercial owners about just leaving space for the people that need to use it on that street. I think we may have limited a little bit more with our lines that we put in because you don't squeeze quite as many in. But yeah, it's definitely something that when that unit or units are ready to be occupied, that I would be strongly suggesting asking the people to use the municipal parking. It's right around the corner. It's very well lit. And yeah, because of the constraints of what is a very, very old building, no additional parking can be added.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay, we can move on with that. We understand, Alan, there was one written submission. Is that correct?
Yes, your worship.
Okay, thank you. We have discussed that. And I too think there's alternatives where these people can park. And I'm sure that when you select your tenants, you'll be running that by them. Committee discussion continues. Any further comments? Seeing none, we're at step number 5, committee decision. There's a recommendation before you that this application be granted, council. Is there support for this application? Yes.
Your worship, can we just quickly check the room to make sure there's no further comments?
Yes, we can. Yep. Is there any comments from the gallery?
Thank you for indulging me, your worship.
No problem. Committee decision. Yes, Deputy Mayor Schuldice.
I'll move the motion.
Okay, is there a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Myers. Last call for discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Carried.
Thank you very much.
Future meetings, council will be advised of that. We will adjourn this committee at 6:24. And Stephanie, if you can still hear me, you take care of that horse in your throat there. We appreciate you staying home tonight. And
Yeah, thanks for
not,
having me virtually.
no problem, but you look after yourself. You're part of the team.
Thanks. Have a good night.
We require a motion to go back into our regular council meeting. Council letter that council reconvene as council meeting at 6:26. Is there a mover for that? McGill and McCollum. All in favor? Carried. We have now at point 7 regarding public meetings. And we will be going into a court of revision at this time. And if council agree to have me appointed as chair of that court of revision to discuss the Brinket Drain 2023, and then Martin Vink, Mark McGill, Mike Scholdice, and Don McCollum be appointed to the court of revision to discuss that. And that council adjourn its regular meeting to sit as a court of revision at 6:26. Is there a mover and a seconder for that? Councillor Choi, seconder, please. Councillor McCollum, all in favor? Carried. So we are now in court of revision. We'll call the meeting to order. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we'll move on. The Brinket Drain, we have George with us tonight. How are you, George?
Well, your worship, how are you,
And
everyone?
Thank you. Can you take council by the hand and walk us through this?
Absolutely. Tonight's meeting is for the quarter revision on the Brinket Drain, which was considered last month. There, as far as I'm aware, the municipality has received no appeals to date. We have not received any concerns from our office, either verbal or written either.
Okay. Thank you. We appreciate that. Alan, we've been advised that there have been no appeals.
That is correct, your worship.
Questions from member of council directed to Street? Any questions? Seeing none, we'll go into deliberations of the court of revision. There are no indications to change any of the assessments. Is there a decision to accept the recommendation as circulated? I'm waiting.
So moved.
Councilor McCollum, Councilor Vink. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, George.
Thank you, your worship.
We'll adjourn, Alan will, for the record, we'll adjourn the court of revision at 6:28. And that motion caught that we reconvene into regular council, I believe. Is that correct, Alan? You need a separate motion for that? I think you've got
Your
it.
worship, I would appreciate a second.
Okay, no problem. Council motion to reconvene the council meeting. Is there a mover? Councilor Vink, Councilor McGill, all in favor? Carried. We are into staff reports. And first is a drainage. Andrew, you've got 4 drains here. Can you walk us through the Stinson-McCollum drain?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Stinson-McCollum drain was first constructed under an engineer's report in 1908. And to my knowledge, there have not been any other engineer's reports pertaining to this drain. It established the general placement of the drain and it has an approximate area of about 300 acres, mainly farmland, some severed lots since it was constructed. For the past 3 years, staff has noticed that there's been sinkholes and blowholes in the drain consistently. And looking back through the records, that is also the case. In mid-September of this year, a written request under Section 78 of the Drainage Act was submitted to reconstruct the drain from at least Concession Drive to its outlet. Staff have been on site and witnessed there and to attest the fact that it is in poor shape. And at this point, staff has not received any feedback with regards to anything north of Concession Drive or from the county for that matter. However, it is early in the process. They either could sign on to this going forward. It is at this point that I would recommend that council appoint Street and Associates under Section 78 of the Drainage Act for Concession 1 lots 5 and 6, former Moser Township, to reconstruct all or part of the Stinson-McCollum drain.
Thank you very much. Council, you've heard the recommendation. Andrew has reiterated it to you. Are there any questions you'd like to address through this discussion? Seeing none, the chair will entertain a motion to accept the recommendation. McGill, Vink, all in favor? Carried. Thank you, Andrew. Jeffrey Drain, number 2 on your docket here.
Thank you. The Jeffrey Drain was first constructed under an engineer's report, 1963. It establishes the general placement of the drain starting on the south side of Park House, going downstream to then outlet into the Kershaw Drain. In September of this year, a written request was submitted under Section 78 of the Drainage Act to reconstruct the drain. Upon review of the files, there only appears to be a small handful of repairs done to the drain. However, the main issue is that the drain is no longer up to the task. The more current drainage expectations means that this drain is no longer the size that it needs to be. With regards to the financial implications, there are no immediate financial implications for this request. However, Park House Drive is within the watershed, and as a result, the municipality will be assessed for its share. At this point, I would recommend that council accept the request filed under Section 78 to reconstruct all or part of the Jeffrey Drain, and that the drainage superintendent contact Lower Thames Valley Region Conservation Authority and other regulatory authorities and send out notices to inform all landowners involved to scope the project, and then that the superintendent report back to council for these items once they've been completed.
Thank you, Andrew, very much for that. Council, you've heard the recommendation on the Jeffrey Drain. Are there questions you'd like to pose to the chair to Andrew? Seeing none, the recommendation has been read. May I have a mover and a seconder for that, please? Councilor McCollum, Councilor McGill. Last call for discussion. All in favor? Carried. Two down, 2 to go. Andrew, the Cameron Drain Reconstruction Section 4 petition. Can you walk us through that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. For the past few years, the owner of the petitioner has occasionally inquired with regards to the most effective way to provide drainage for part of his land. It currently is not served by an outlet directly. There's never been an outlet for this area. During large rain events and steadily increasing land values have encouraged many property owners to take flooding more seriously than they have in the past. With all these factors considered, different options were discussed on how best to provide an outlet for this portion. After recent discussions during this year, it was agreed that the best way to provide an outlet was a new municipal drain. In early October of this year, the owner of Range 2 North, Lot 3, submitted a formal petition under Section 4 of the Drainage Act. And if you look at the map, the bold red line is more or less what is being asked for. At this point, again, this is very early on in the process. There is some room to move around here. And the blue dotted line is the proposed or potential watershed of this drain. And this was obtained by looking at surrounding drains to determine where they end and where this would begin. So this is just an estimate of what the watershed would be. So at this point, there's no financial implications. However, Centerville Drive would more than likely have an assessment towards this, because there would more than likely be catch basins on either or both sides of the road. At this point, I recommend that council accepts the petition filed under Section 4(1)(a) of the Drainage Act for concession R2N of Lot 3, former Mosa Township, to construct a new municipal drain, and that the drainage superintendent contact Lower Thames Valley Region Conservation Authority and other regulatory authorities, and that staff send out notices to inform the other landowners that could be involved, and that superintendent report back to council for these items.
Thank you, Andrew, very much. I'm pleased to see the public engagement that we always have in these matters. Any questions you'd like to ask Andrew, through the chair? Yes, Councillor Vink.
Thank you, Mayor. Andrew, just for interest sake, I'm fully in support of this. Could the watershed areas change for some people?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it could. What has happened in the past where the property owners are not using the drain, but the lay of the land goes in that direction, it will be denoted on the plan in a cross hatching saying that it's just surface water, no subsurface water. And so their assessment would be reduced. But what would be done is a proper survey to determine just where the watershed would be, beyond my surmising at this point.
Yeah, thank you. Any further questions? Council, the recommendation has been read by our drainage superintendent. Is there a mover and a seconder to accept it? Deputy Mayor Schuldeis and Councillor Vink. Last call for questions. Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. And Andrew, I see you have a tender selection here. And just remind council that we handle these according to our procurement policy. And Andrew, I'll let you apprise council of your findings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the interest of saving time, I will just read the dollar value of the lowest amount and also the amount that Spreet's office has recommended. So with regards to the MacArthur drain, it was Spreet's recommendation that Robert Robinson Wilmsey Drainage be awarded this project at the tender amount excluding HST at $37,176. And the start date would be June and the end date would be July of 2024. Now, would you like to vote on each individual one, or would you like me to sum it all up and then vote?
I think I'm going to stick to your recommendation. You have all these in your recommendation, so we can sum them up on one vote.
Sure.
And then there's consistency there, Andrew.
Yeah, okay. With regards to the stocking drain branch 2 and 3, the lowest and also the contractor that Spreet's has recommended is Banbury Drainage at $155,611.80. Start date January of 24 and completion date of July of 24. Tenders for the code drain was also Banbury Drainage at $140,895.70. Start date of June 24, completion date September of 24. and the Camplin drain, the lowest bid, and also the contractor that Spreets has recommended was McNally Excavating at 108,000, start date of the 13th of October and completion date of July of 24.
Thank you. Andrew, you've been busy. Questions on any of these tenders, council? Opportune time now, if there's any questions. Seeing no hands, the recommendation has been reiterated to you. Is there a mover and a seconder to accept staff's report? Councillor McCollum. Councillor Haggett. Last call for discussion. All in favor? Carried, council. Andrew, thank you very much for walking us through that. Appreciate it. I see we have the pleasure of Arnie Mearsman here. Arnie, how are you? Yep. Well, you're bringing us some good news tonight. I like that. Yep. Arnie, we're going to start off with comprehensive building bylaw. To receive the document for information, can you reiterate it, your findings to council and your opinions to council?
Absolutely. Through the mayor to council, it's a pleasure to be here, and I'd like to introduce council to a new building bylaw we're looking to get passed tonight. Under the authority of the Building Code Act, a municipality may pass a building bylaw which governs a number of matters that building divisions work with, such as types of permits, types of drawings, use of specific forms, building permit fees and penalties, inspection details, site fencing, and a number of other things specific to your community. In 2008, Southwest Middlesex passed its current building bylaw, and since then there's been a number of changes in the industry that really need to be reflected in the new bylaw. In 2021, Middlesex Center expanded our building services agreement with Middle to include Southwest Middlesex and Adelaide Metcalfe in North Middlesex. Each of these municipalities have its own unique building bylaw, and what staff would like to see is a consistent building bylaw for the 5 municipalities. And I can say that the other 4 municipalities have passed this bylaw earlier this fall. I was a meeting late coming here because of a conflict, but I'm pleased to say that the other municipalities have passed the same bylaw. So the bylaw in front of council, changes in the industry, I guess. This recognizes e-permitting. Currently, the current building bylaw requires 2 sets of drawings on paper or cloth. That doesn't really reflect what we do currently today. We're generally e-permitting, everything's online. Although we do accept paper applications, this kind of reflects the new reality. The new bylaw includes details on set fines for penalties. It recognizes remote inspections in the industry. Remote inspections are sort of an acknowledgement that from time to time we may accept a picture, a video call to help a builder deal with a deficiency so they can progress to the next stage of construction. Remote inspections aren't there to replace a primary building inspection, but if we do say an installation inspection and it fails for a minor issue on a Friday, and they really want to drywall on the weekend, then they can send us a picture of what the repair is so that they can continue on and we can pass that inspection. So it's been recommended to building departments across the province to include remote inspections in the building bylaw to recognize that it does happen from time to time. And it really came up through COVID that we were able to communicate that way safely. Also, the new bylaw provides more options for us to request additional grading detail, site servicing detail, and how it impacts the neighboring properties a bit more than current bylaws do. So the bylaw in front of council has been vetted by Middlesex County Solicitor. He's satisfied that it would withstand any challenges, and we're recommending that it be approved. For any questions.
Great, thank you very much. Council, extensive document there. Any questions you'd like to pose through the chair to Arnie? Yes, Councillor Bink.
I can't get the whole plan in front of me here, so I just know my memory. First thing I noticed, maybe you can go over some of the top Like I think some of the costs are going up fair bit in certain instances.
Through the mayor, the municipality did a building permit fee review. I'm not sure if it's the cost of building permits themselves that you're asking or the cost of construction
Fines, I think they're going.
fines. Yeah, we're recognizing, or sorry, recommending that the municipality adopt set fines. So if somebody begins construction without a building permit, if somebody occupies a house without an occupancy permit, we can write them a ticket. We can proceed that way. It's much easier to write somebody a ticket than it is, and less expensive than it is to go to court using a solicitor to get an information in a summons to appear. Quite often, we find that a ticket would be more effective at getting the point across rather than going through a lawyer. So that's an option. It's not used very often. In Middlesex Center in the past year, we've maybe had a handful, honestly, of tickets that we've had to write, but it is a good tool to have in the toolbox.
Thank you, Marnie. Okay, any further questions? One more follow-up, Councillor Vink.
Okay, one more building permit costs for different types of buildings. Any of them going up with this new bylaw?
Yeah, through the mayor, that's a great question. So the three municipalities, say Southwest Middlesex, Adelaide, Metcalfe, and North Middlesex, underwent a fee study towards the end of 2021. And the fee review was passed by councils to adopt consistent fees amongst those three municipalities with an indexing requirement that they be indexed annually with the consumer price index. So this bylaw has nothing to do with the actual fees increasing or decreasing or staying the same. Council made that decision in 2021 that the fees be increased or indexed with the consumer price index annually, so they keep up with the cost of living.
That's correct, and I know we were competitive at the time when we established that. Council, any other councillors have any questions? Yes, Councillor McGill first, followed by Councillor McCollum.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Mayhew. Through the mayor to Carney. I noticed in that bylaw, it says that the building inspector can, order a fence be put up around a construction site. Now, I'm a farmer, and from what I can see, normally, we don't have to put a fence up when we're building something new. And well, I think it's probably good to have that in the bylaw. I'm just a little concerned what happens if maybe an overzealous building inspector is asking for a fence where maybe really we don't really need a fence. And it's in the bylaw. How would that be handled?
Through the mayor, it is another tool in our toolbox. If we have an excavation, say on Main Street or in a subdivision, and that construction site stops for some reason, and it becomes more of a safety hazard, it's something we can fall back on and request that the site be fenced. It wouldn't typically be proactively required for all construction sites. It's more there to protect when those sort of situations.
Just in the event you need it. Yes, follow up, Mark, go ahead.
Thank you. That's kind of that's the way I'm hoping this will work. I noticed demolition permit. There's a $500 fine for demolishing something without a permit. I'm not sure you will be able to answer this, but in the past, I think you didn't need a demolition permit to tear down an agricultural building. Is that correct? But now you would?
No, that's correct. That's still in the building code. Farm buildings are exempt from demolition permits. So a demolition permit is required for residential, institutional, industrial, commercial buildings, but farm buildings are exempt from demolition permits.
Okay, so even if we pass this bylaw, they'll still be exempt?
Yes, yes.
But in a way, it's a good idea if a farmer does get a demolition permit, because then eventually that'll get back to impact and they would reduce his assessment because that building would be gone. Otherwise, he might be paying taxes on a building that's not even there.
Yeah, through the mayor, that's correct. There is a form that gets filled out with when buildings are demolished. if you get a demolition permit, we're proactively providing that form to the demolition applicant. But it is a good word to get out to the community that if you do take down a significant farm building to make sure that you reflect that in your taxes and the right forms.
Okay, any further questions? Councilor McCollum, yes.
Yes, I see the building permits, cost in, the third quarter was 93 building permits at $291,529. And in 2022, there was only 89 and there were only 95,500. There's been a big increase in
The value of the bills.
value.
Yeah, through the mayor, I will speak to that briefly in my next report. That's the third quarter building report. But we have seen a lot more activity this year, but I will speak to that shortly.
Okay, thank you. Last call for questions. Mark, one more. Yep.
Getting back to the demolition permits, I know I've seen places where there's been old building sites that have been cleaned up, which in my opinion is a good idea. Once buildings get beyond the point where they can be repaired, it's better off if they're gone. So if somebody say, and I've seen this in the past, and I saw the building permits come to council, or demolition permits. So will it still be that, say if a person wanted to take down, maybe they had 5 or 6 buildings and they wanted to take them all down at once? Could that be just covered under one demolition permit?
Through the mayor, it'd be case by case scenario. So if you have a property that has 3 or 4 buildings, and they want to take them all down, we can do that in one demolition permit. Yeah, absolutely. On a farm, again, all of those buildings, grain bins and drive sheds are exempt from a demolition permit. So it'd really be specific to a non-agricultural sort of property where you have multiple buildings coming down. We could lump that into one permit if it's generally the same time of year, same season.
Thank you. Council, the recommendation that the report be received for information and that the draft bylaw be referred to the bylaws section of the agenda for consideration. Is there a mover and a seconder for the recommendation? Councillor Choi, seconder for that. My head was turned the other way. I just saw Councillor McGill. I think you had your hand up. I'll give it to you, Councillor McGill. And I think we have had ample discussion on that, Council. I'll call the vote. All in favor? Accepting the recommendation? Carried unanimously. And Arnie, that is good to have, and we have some continuity with other municipalities of our size, which is good. And billing report, your second item here, third quarter 2023. If you'd like to speak to that, please.
Yeah, certainly through the mayor to council. Just the third quarter building report, very positive. It's been a great year. The summary paragraph, generally, the indicators we look at is the number of new dwellings and the cost of construction each year. And those are generally some of the indicating variables. And in Southwest Middlesex this year, we've seen 31 new dwelling units compared to 11 last year at the same time. And a cost of construction of over 20 million in comparison to 16 million. So yeah, certainly 31 new dwelling units to 11 is a great increase this year to what we've seen last year, and cost of construction as well has gone up. So that's great news. In the report, there's 3 tables. I can speak briefly to them if I'm open to questions.
Yeah, no, Arnie, that's good. It's good news, and you take your time there.
Okay. So table 1, we outline the number of permits this year. We've seen 93 permits this year compared to 89, and permit fees collected have been 290,000 in permit fees collected because of the increased activity compared to 95,000 last year. So, and again, the permit value of 20 million compared to 16 million. The second table is more of a detailed table of a breakdown of what kind of construction we're seeing. Housing versus agricultural and industrial, commercial. It sort of summarizes what we've seen. We've seen 7 new dwellings this quarter. And if there's any questions about the different types of construction there, I'm happy to speak to that as well. But 28 permits in the third quarter, $4 million worth of construction. The third table is a summary of the 5 partners that we were doing building inspections for. It's just something council could compare what's happening elsewhere in the county versus Southwest Middlesex. And this year has been very slow for municipalities that are sort of dependent on residential construction. You'll see in Middlesex Center, our permits have gone down from 580 permits in the first 3 quarters down to 350. So it's a significant reduction, and the number of new dwellings in Middlesex Center have gone from 160 down to 87. So a significant reduction in some municipalities. But what we've seen in Southwest Middlesex, like I've explained, it's a significant increase to last year. Adelaide Metcalfe has had a very good year this year, and North Middlesex has generally held their own. They've weathered the storm of interest rates and slowdowns. So Middlesex Center and Lucan Mid-Health really have seen the brunt of the impact. But it's just a summary there again of what we're seeing across the county. If council wants to compare how Southwest compares to others.
It's quite informative information, Arnie. Thank you.
That's the summary of my report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Council through the chair, to Mr. Marsman. Yes. Councillor Vink.
Arnie, agricultural buildings, there were 16. Is there different costs on the permits depending on the size of the building and the type of building?
Yeah, through the mayor, there is. It's a staggered increase depending on the size of the building. And once we get to a certain size, we have it in our fee bylaws, whether it's agricultural or commercial or industrial, is that the fees actually get cut in half. There's a base fee, and then there's a cost per square foot once you reach a certain size. And once you get extra large, that cost per square foot is actually reduced significantly more, because we don't want to penalize the large buildings. We don't need that money grab. So we do our best to reduce the building permit fees. The larger the building gets, the smaller it costs you per square foot.
Well explained. Any further questions? Yes, Mark, please go ahead.
Through the mayor to Arnie. I see in 2022, we had, that's cost of construction, third quarter 2000. Well, I'll make my question short. We have to, when the municipality builds a building, we actually have to go through the process and get a building permit too, right? So in the previous year, I think we would have had a big, I see under institutional, it says $4,634,000. Quite a bit of that would have been a building we did ourselves, I think. So makes this year's numbers look even better in a way.
Okay. Any further questions, Arnie? Seeing none, that the report be received for information. Would someone like to move that? Councillor McGill, Councillor Vink. All in favor? All opposed? Carried. Arnie, thank you. Safe drive home. Miss those deer on the way home. I have not been advised, council, of any notices of motion. With respect to the clerk, I'll ask if there's any correspondence and petitions. None?
At this time, your worship.
Thank you. There has been no unfinished business. And no items under new business. Nothing was removed from the consent agenda. County council and conference updates, they will be coming. And number 14 on the agenda, council, I'll give you a moment to reflect. Are there any announcements? Seeing none, I'll take the floor. I would just want to advise council of Remembrance Day services coming up in November. We participate in 4 ceremonies throughout the municipality, and we certainly would like to get everyone involved. And perhaps you might want to make a note or put them in your phones. Sunday, November 5th, Melbourne at 10:30. I've been asked to lay the wreath there, and I'd love if Councillor McCollum and Councillor McGill can be there on Sunday, November 5th at 10:30. And you're certainly welcome to join me. And we can go to the cenotaph and lay that wreath together. And on that same day, Newberry always asks us to participate in that ceremony as well. So they have asked me to lay the wreath at 3 o'clock on November 5th as well. So Melbourne at 10:30, and I'll do Newberry at 3. And we certainly welcome any councillors, deputy mayor to attend the Newberry service at 3 o'clock. Glencoe on November 11th is at the customary time of 11 o'clock. And I'll lay the wreath on behalf of the municipality there. We certainly welcome any councillors or our deputy mayor to attend. And I'd appreciate it if our deputy mayor and our Ward 3 councillors, Wardsville is on November 11th at 11 o'clock too. Mike, can you lay the wreath for that? Okay, and Martin and Amy, if you want to accompany him, I'm sure Mike would be delighted. Okay. And that is the 4 services. So I just thought maybe I better give you a heads up on that, council. I know we're all busy, but we'll take a moment to remember the fallen. 11 a.m. at Warsaw. Yeah, good to be there about 10:45. Yep. Okay, is there any other call for announcements? Alrighty, we can move on. We will move on to bylaws. We have on our plate the bylaws 2023/066 and 2033/067 be given their 3rd and final reading. And I have no conflicts of interest on this bylaw reported, council. Any questions you'd like to ask our clerk? Failing which we can accept that as a motion that the 3rd and final reading on those 2 bylaws be received. You'll move it, Mike? Okay, is there a seconder for that? Councillor Choi, thank you. All in favor? Carried. And Alan, again, the recommendation that bylaw number 2023/071 and 2023/079 you read and approved. Do you wish to go through that procedure?
Yes, your worship. 2023/071 is going to be that building bylaw that was presented by Arnie earlier on. And 2023/079 is our confirmatory bylaw.
Okay, thank you. Is there a mover and a seconder for that? Councillor Choi, Councillor McCollum. All in favor? And we have before us bylaw 2023/065, given the 3rd and final reading. And Amy, I'm aware, you can stay seated, Amy. I'm aware of the conflict that you've presented to the chair, and thank you for that. The bylaw, 2023/065 is the Diamond Drain we discussed this evening. Or the other evening, bylaw number 2023/66, the Murdoch Drain, 67, the Black Drain, and 71, the building bylaw. And Amy, I think we'll deal with, let's deal with 65, the Diamond Drain first. Amy's declared a conflict. We'll get that out of the way and Councillor Choi can come back and join us in the others. Is there a motion to accept the bylaw number 2023/0665? Councillor McCollum, seconder. Councillor Vink, all in favor? Carried. And Amy, you're certainly can join us now at bylaw 66, 67, and 71.
Your worship,
Yep.
we've completed those ones.
Okay, they are done. Okay, thank you. And the bylaw, confirmatory bylaws done as well. Thank you. Council, we will be going into closed session. At this point, I want to thank in open council your participation this evening. Thanks staff and certainly the interest in the gallery. We appreciate that as well. And we wish those watching us virtually good health. And we will hand the gavel over to Mike and we will soon be off the air, at which time Alan will advise us.
Your worship, may I read a resolution for council's approval?
Yes, we can. Can I have a mover and a seconder that council go into committee of the whole to discuss a matter that may have legal characteristics to it. Is there a mover and a seconder for that? Councillor McGill. Seconder. Councillor McCollum. All in favor? Carry.